Hey guys, Thomas the Jr. here, aka Mustached Tom, here to review Death and Other Details. If you end up enjoying this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers. Second it there to my Patreon and PayPal. I could definitely use it now more than ever. And fourth will head you over to my Discord, where any unknown things can be shared, collabed, and all that cool stuff, and it's all free, and showing will be reminded at the end of the review. With all that out of the way, let's get into Death and Other Details. So, I came across this kind of randomly, actually, and I'm a little bit glad I did. So this series follows an old, begrudged detective and a slightly more sassy young girl who we see later on to the right of the lead detective there in the middle of the poster. You can see her in the yellow long pants become sort of a secondary like detective, or the side sleuth, as it were, in a vintage murder mystery series, which I will appreciate is something. Murder mystery in terms of even movies, we had, but as of recently, like, pretty bad ones, all things considered, with, Orange, what was it? Oh, I can't even remember the series now. Glass Onion, that's what it was called, right? That movie and the predecessor to it, and so it was pretty interesting to come off of those movies thinking about how, the second one in particular was even more frustrating than the first in terms of the mystery, or if we're being honest, lack thereof. So it was refreshing to see a proper murder mystery where things are out of order, we're replaying scenes, sort of like how that is done, but we actually have, a list of suspects, and we actually get to see a lot more back and forth, with this being a season's worth of content. And there is a twist within it, and I will say there is technically more than one killer in this series, but I do think that the way that it plays out is quite spectacular, or, a lot more solid than the movies that I just mentioned are. So, if you couldn't tell, this murder mystery begins on a boat, and we learn that the detective's previous partner was the main, or the first documented kill, and the reason she ends up in joining this investigation was because she was a part of the main detective's prior case, as I mentioned, when she was a girl. Apparently, her own mom was murdered. And I say apparently because this will be a spoiler review. So if you, don't want to know who done it, or who done it, plural, then I would highly advise you probably want to avoid this review, I suppose. But hey, I'm willing to risk the lack of views to talk about a series as objective as possible here. So, for the most part, there are some pretty interesting hints as to who done it. We get proper motives. We get, red herrings, as it were. The whole 9 yards. Everything you would come to expect with a vintage horror, mystery setup. With that comes a bit of a dramatization and including with that dramatization some romance and off on the side as a sort of side plot, I suppose. And yeah. So as we progress through, we learn that the killer's name is, or alias, I suppose I should rather say, is Victor Sams. So that is the person they're supposedly looking for, though. While on the boat, they have their list of suspects, and it seems as if this person is not on board. However, we later learn that that is not the case. Again, spoiler alert. For the first crux of the mystery. Turns out, again, one less spoiler warning, I suppose. So, I gave 3. It turns out that the mom never truly died. In fact, she escaped the explosion that she set for herself in these flashbacks, and we are cutting back to this periodically throughout the series, getting a little drip-feeded more and more information, as a proper mystery ought to do, is drip-feed proper information. Now, I do think that there is a little bit of a cheat with this as well, as she isn't one of the primary suspects. I mean, it is technically her murder. I mean, that's what they were investigating, so it's a non-murder murder, but it does lead to more murder of, again, the main detective's partner. So it was all of set up so that she can get all of these rich people that had all this dirt and shit, and bad dealings and getting up in the world, essentially getting them this cruise and trying to off them up as non-suspiciously as possible. In fact, she doubled up on her efforts coming back as a detective, giving her quite the alias or shield to go by throughout the middle section of the series. However, we get more and more bits and pieces of information through character slip-ups and minor, again, clues. But through that, we do get more murder. We see that one of the suspects kills her own mom in a fit of rage when she finds out what she, had the main character's mom go through, essentially. So yeah, and I think there was one other murder that happens, if I remember this correctly. It was this guy who got drugged, essentially, and he got drugged by some other person. There's technically 3 killers in this series, or yeah, 3. So quite a list of suspects, all for different murders, technically speaking. One is objectively arrested, that being the mom, at the end of the season, obviously. And with that all wrapped up, and how they do it, or how they bring her in, is that the daughter sets up this arrangement where she has all pre-prepped, essentially, getting the cops in on it beforehand, making sure that her cover, or her, her countermeasures were accounted for, essentially, and letting that all play out up until she revealed just the amount of information that was left remaining, because pretty much all of her last remaining secrets were sort of unveiled during this server thing that is brought up within the boat section. And this does, in fact, again, lead to her arrest. So for the most part, in terms of dealing with a murder mystery, I do feel like that's a little bit cheaty in a way, where it's like not any of these suspects that are, again, because it's her own non-murder, I guess is a way of putting this. So I don't know. I think the series cheats a little bit, but I think it's still fun enough with the other things that sort of get added in as a cluster to that mystery. And she does play a role, a pretty decent role, at least in the middle portion up until the end. Apparently, I would have to rewatch it. She's apparently there even in the first episode. Apparently you can see her, but it might again be a cheat. It might have been blurry. I would have to again recheck the first episode to see how that plays out exactly, but I digress. Point being is cheated a little bit, but I can kind of, with the added content of what, you know, some of the other stuff, murdery stuff that happens, I'm like, okay, there's like, it's still leading us somewhere. We still are being led somewhere. There is still a suspected question, and we might not know who it is on the boat directly, at least for that, you know, a good chunk of time, but again, we're moving closer and closer to that inevitable reveal, as it were. And I will say, in terms of this season, there was this one sort of side content, or like B plot, I suppose, outside of the romance. So I would actually say a C plot, in fact, because the B plot was what I would count as the romance that the main character goes through. The C plot deals with the war stuff, like, yes, I'm actually talking about the real life war stuff, and this story presents the whole Palestine thing going on currently in the real life right now, and kind of gives a like offhanded like mini side story to it in one of the episodes, dealing with some refugees apparently. Honestly, I think this bit could have honestly been cut and lost nothing. I mean, it doesn't really have anything to do with the mystery. It does technically move our main character to a different area off the boat, because that is a thing that happens at this section. And again, we get a red herring out of it, so it does technically lead to other stuff. I think that could have been more integrated with the actual mystery itself. In terms of like maybe they got in contact with someone on shore previously, and it was like a back and forth, and then they would have her sort of get over there to actually, you know, face to face talk the details out or something. I don't know, something to get her temporarily away from the boat to create this new red herring, as it were, or maybe even readjust it so she doesn't have to leave the boat. I don't know if that's, again, I don't know if it's completely necessary to remove the boat as a sort of, you know, a setup or a location, as it were. I suppose they were trying to do their best to not have every scene on the boat. Though the boat is a massive thing, there are plenty of rooms to sort of scope around, so I think they could have managed it all on the boat, if I'm being honest. And then, you know, the last portion could have been where it was, because it's sort of like, again, an offshoot of like revealing the stuff, information, so that's fine if it's not on the boat per se. And of course, with this being a season 1 thing, they set up a potential for a season 2, just in case. She's now teamed up with 3 of the individuals. One of her current boyfriend slash partner, I guess, and 2 other individuals who I guess are also her partners in this investigation, question mark, or they would just happen to be there, I'm not sure. But they do find a new body in the area that, this whole thing went down with the finding out or arresting her mom. And, it could be, I mean, it could be her, but she was in the thing getting set up, so I'm assuming that this was meant to be a different, person, I suppose, and then it will lead to, again, a potential for a season 2, which, I think for the most part, outside of the C plot of this Palestine war thing that they throw in, I actually do think, and the cheating, the slight cheating, I suppose I'll call it, of the killer itself. I think with those 2 things being the minor issues I have with it, I would still say that overall, I would still say it's a pretty good murder mystery. So with a bit of cleaning up in season 2, I think that it can prevail to being quite an expertise in bringing back murder mystery in a way that's fun, engaging, and, well, mysterious. The core thing you come to sort of want to be drawn into when you're, so the opposite of Glass Onion, essentially, be drawn in by the actual mystery part of the mystery genre. So yeah, I hope they get a season 2. Look forward to that. And in terms of a score, again, I think it's pretty solid, so I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. Could I be pushed to a 6? I don't think that the offshoot or the side stuff, I don't think there's enough cracks to push it to a 6 necessarily, per se. But everything else is, again, pretty solid, so I think I'm satisfied with, again, being as objective as possible, placing it at a solid 7 out of 10. And that is my review of Death and Other Details, and if you ended up enjoying this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. And when I head you over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers, to get through to my Patreon and PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly, and 4th to my Discord server, you can join, collab, and chill, and do all that cool stuff. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.